All right, my friends. Welcome to the first call of the master's curriculum. On this call, I don't really have too much to go over myself. So if you have questions like on anything, anything at all relating to what we've talked about previously, so whether it be Twitter or just content creation or content multiplication or content repurposing or really anything, writing newsletters, like any sticking points that you have, please don't hesitate to pop them in the chat here. And then we can just get those answered. But since we have a more tight knit group, I guarantee we'll have time where we can just talk, ask questions, have a discussion, and get more intimate with this stuff. Because with this first module, now these modules are a bit weird because of the way that I've structured them. I have the marketing come first, so we have an outline that we can like fill out throughout the entire journey, right? Something that we can iterate on throughout the entire journey. And so we know what we're looking for, or we know what we're doing when it comes time to create a product, because we don't want to create a product and then have to have the marketing limited by that. We want to create the marketing and have something very compelling and then create the product around that to deliver on the promise, and then kind of have them go back and forth, because you may come to realize, okay, I can't deliver on this promise yet. So then it's like, I need to go back, refine the marketing. But I think it's better to aim high and have a product that promises good and has impactful marketing, and then create the product surrounding that, because then that gives you the option or the firepower to pretty much launch before, or not launch, but start promoting and start talking about things and start writing things out, whether it be in content, before you even start building out the product. And then when you start building out the product, whenever you want to launch, if you have the landing page, you can just launch it, and then you have a deadline to get the product done by, and then it kind of works in unison that way, and you're kind of forced to build it out because we all procrastinate. And so the one thing that I do want to touch on here is the minimum viable offer. And to me, that is pretty much just bare bones offer, right? If you are very, I wouldn't say beginner level, but if you haven't gotten much results with a specific skill or interest, then I would go the minimum viable offer route. And so for something like an interest, so health, let's say health or self-improvement or performance is kind of related, and like interest-based things, that would be more so consulting, right? Where you can offer a pack of 4 calls, which is going to make you more money and be less time consuming than just like reaching out to people to have them buy one consulting call, right? You can start to create something that you can charge $500, $1,000, $1,500 for right out of the gate. And then what that allows you to do is, when you're actually talking to these people, you start to understand them much better. Things start to click because you're like, oh, okay, this is what people actually need help with. This is their actual problems, rather than me assuming or guessing what they are and trying to fill out my marketing strategy according to that. But it's not a bad thing to assume or guess what the problems are at the start. You kind of have to. You need that starting point. And with something like a skill-based offer, which I would consider like web design, email marketing, like other marketing disciplines, even along the lines of those type of things, right? Something where it's like hands-on, this is a skill you need to learn, that isn't like, it isn't referred to, or you don't really think of it as a coaching offer right off of the bat. And so what you can do with that is, in that case, you would offer a kind of like a Fiverr or a Upwork type offer, which would be like, I'll build you a website, I'll build you a landing page, I'll create your Twitter header, I'll do something that you can charge for, and just start getting experience under your belt. So then you start like branching into other things that you'll realize that you have to learn if you want to charge more and have more of an irresistible offer that is unique to you. And another thing with that a lot of people, I feel like there's a lot of opportunity in like the skill mentorship or like tutoring space, right? Because there's a let's take Bowtied Cyber, for example, where he just started up a boot camp. And now with web development or programming or coding, there's a lot of organized boot camps by like organizations or other things, but I have yet to see many that are like individual, right? There's so many programmers and coders out there that are like teaching people how to code with courses and other things, but I've yet to see. I've only seen one, but maybe that's because I'm not in the space as much. I'm not immersed in that like environment. But it seems like there aren't many people that even think they can create their own boot camp or some kind of like even one-on-one tutoring with someone where it's like, I will help you one-on-one build out this coding project. Or in the case of web design, if you don't want to target someone and try to find someone that needs a website, then you can offer it to a beginner level audience and be like, I will teach you one-on-one how to build out this website with, let's say, WordPress and Elementor or some kind of no-code tools, so you can be very flexible with this stuff. And it's kind of hard to know what you can do without first being exposed to it or becoming aware of it, because that like dot doesn't connect where it's like, oh, I can do this. I can do really anything I want as long as I'm delivering on my promise, right? And that's what offer creation eventually gets to. It becomes very creative, but at the start, I would start with that minimum viable offer where it's like 4 packs of consulting calls or like tutoring / mentorship calls. And then if you want to go the skill route, let's say you're a graphic designer or illustrator, then it's like, I'll do a Twitter banner, or I'll design your product assets or something of that sort, right? And that is kind of most of what I have to say because the marketing strategy sheet or like the Notion page that we copy and pasted into the project, that's like, it's there. Like, we're not going to have that perfect first time around, not even close. And that's why in the videos I was kind of like, I didn't know what to say past a certain time, because it's like we're trying to learn so much where it's like marketing, sales, product creation, and then eventually like how to automate everything or systemize everything. And so we need to take it like in the most efficient way possible. And it's not all going to happen in a week, of course. So that is what I have to say. I don't see any questions yet. So we will take this opportunity. One, Joey, actually, I want to talk. So if anyone has questions, pop them in the chat relating to anything. But Joey, I want to, let's go over like the evolution of your offer, because a lot of people don't think it's possible, or they don't, I don't think they see the connection where it's like, we're all interested in self-improvement. You've studied psychology like a madman. You're not really credentialed, right? Like you studied programming, which was lucrative, but you went towards psychology and found a way to monetize that because it's something you would rather do than something that like you could have created a cohort for like coding or something if you built your audience around that. But instead it's more so focus, productivity, like self-improvement concepts that you've turned into a performance offer for what was executives. Let's run through it. So like when you first started, what did you start with? You're muted.
When I first started, I was really vague. I was just scientific self-improvement. That's basically what I made a YouTube channel about. And they were just about a scientific way of handling problems. And then got kind of burnt out with YouTube. It wasn't really going anywhere because I wasn't good at communicating things at the time. So I started on Twitter. Same thing, scientific self-improvement. Didn't really have much of a point. Sorry, there was somebody who needed the link, so I had to manage that. But then over time, I kind of experimented with different points, I guess. I made a course on habits, but I made that when I had like 3,000 followers and didn't really have much of a customer base then. And then I started getting toward productivity because I realized that like productivity and performance are basically the things that enable us to do whatever it is that we want to do. So I realized that I could kind of put these many things that I wanted to talk about under the umbrella of productivity and performance. And it was basically like a different way of talking about the things I wanted to talk about. And in October or November of 2020, I had a couple of friends who had some issues and I felt like I could help them with them. And I was like, hey, if you want to talk, like we can get on a call and I'll help you. I'll like create strategies for you and stuff like that. And that's how I got into coaching. So I wound up coaching those people for free, got them results, got testimonials from them. And then I was able to leverage that into paid coaching gigs, like one on one with people. And so no prospect I've ever gotten on a call with has asked me, what are your credentials? Do you have a degree? Do you have certifications? Are you ICF certified? Because nobody cares. What people care about in most situations in this context is, are you able to deliver on the results that you promise? Are you able to solve the problems that the prospect has? And a major way that you prove that you can do that is not through your degrees and certifications and all that stuff. It's through your social proof. Do you have proof that you've been helping people solve those problems? And if you don't have that yet, then that's a good place to start really building up your authority.
Yes. Nice. And so that like you're so what you said, the credentials, like their credentials are useful. Like for personal trainers, it's like, okay, this guy has a credential or this guy has a certification. He knows what he's talking about. But all in all, social proof and testimonials are going to be what gives you the most authority, right? And so when you're first starting out with this, you can go the route of, okay, I want to just start making money, landing clients, and like selling this minimum viable offer, like $500 to $1,000 in the DMs, which is we're talking about sales in the module that dropped today. But I lost my train of thought. Oh, okay. So I have a few things, right? Another way I want you to start thinking about things, because we have the marketing strategy there, but it may be very confusing. And I've had this question a few times where it's like, okay, but how do I like structure a coaching offer? How do I structure a consulting offer? How do I structure a product? How do I structure the actual freelance offer? And so here, what we're doing, and this is kind of tying into the marketing strategy, is that there's point A and point B, right? There's where they want to be, which you can think of this in terms of like your own vision and then the goals that help you get there and where you are now. Or you can kind of use that framework of like here's a vision for your future. Here are the goals to get there. Here's where you are now. I can help you bridge that gap. But then the question is, okay, what goes in the middle? Like, what's the how? What's the curriculum? What's the call structure? What's all of this stuff? And now I mentioned this a few times, I believe, in this module that we're discussing. But think of someone like Steven Kotler, right? Which is one of Joey and I's good people. If you haven't read the book, The Art of Impossible, great book all around just for performance and like a lot of what we talk about. But that book, I would assume, and I can almost guarantee, is his literal coaching offer, but like in the form of a book. The only difference between the book price and his coaching price is one-on-one help, accountability, getting direct access to someone that people respect, and just the clarity and systems to execute on what's in the actual book itself. So when I come to create a product, or let's say I want to create a new like consulting offer or something, what I usually do to start fleshing out like just a soft outline of either what the curriculum's going to be, what I'm going to talk about inside, I'll usually pick up or reread 2 to 3 books around those topics. So we're going to be talking about this later in the third module, since I'm kind of building out a course along with this, or I'm trying to. It's kind of hard to juggle. But what I'm doing is I'm reading I read Rest by Alex Sujung Kim Pong, which is about like work rest balance, right? It's the whole like 4-hour work day, like 4 hours of focus work type deal, because I feel like that would be useful in the course and it's something that I do, right? So I have my own methods behind that. And then I'm also reading the book Writing to Be Understood. And I'm not reading that for the sake of like, oh, I don't know how to write, so I need to learn how to write so I can teach it. But I'm doing it because I want to understand how people teach writing in an effective way from someone who has gotten either good book reviews or has just fleshed it out. And I'm kind of taking the structure. So it's like, okay, how are they leading people through this? What are the main talking points that I actually need to go through? And then I can start to fill that in on my own. So it's like an article where you have the key points or you have the structure, and then you kind of fill that in based on how you would solve it, right? That's what makes it unique. And then what the product is going to be, it's going to be like, okay, here's like foundation of writing. Here is like my kind of thought process behind it and why I use Twitter. Some of it, there's going to be some crossover of like what's in digital economics. But then there's going to be another section where it's like, okay, here's how you actually structure your writing, because a big important thing with writing is just blocking out distractions and learning how to structure your day and get like just start writing. And then there's going to be another section or module where it's kind of like my philosophy tied into it, where it's like, oh, you're in the unknown and like awareness and all this other stuff that I like talking about, just to make it a bit more unique and give a unique perspective. So that's the main thing when it comes to actually fleshing out. Like if you're like, okay, I want to do this minimum viable offer of like let's say consulting, like Joey is, then it's like, okay, define point A and point B, and then start reading about performance, not only to uh, not only to like get a soft structure of how other people teach it, but also to like refresh yourself, because it's not like someone sits down and just creates a course all in one day with all of the information at the top of their mind, because it doesn't really work like that. It's the same thing with writing a newsletter or an article where you probably know what you're talking about, but there's something that is just sitting in the back of your head that needs the right word or phrase or reminder to bring it to the top of mind, and then you can start writing again because you know what it is at that point. And that's the main thing. So Sahil asked the question, what
Sorry, I
comes...
could not complete my question.
Oh,
It's not, yeah, what I actually wanted to ask was based on the minimum viable offer. Um, because if you have, you can create the offer, but then if you don't have much of an audience, you post it, it's just like it goes in a black hole. So like,
yeah.
how do you, so that from that perspective, what comes first? Like, should you create an offer and then start cold DMing people and get testimonials? Is that the way to go? Or like, how would you approach that?
Yeah. So cold DMing is a very viable option for um, like if you don't have that huge audience yet. But even like your size audience, you could start promoting. Like I could see it actually working really well, um, and just start like not even for the sake of making sales, but for the sake of like, hey, I'm going to be promoting on this page. If you don't like it, like, oh well, you're just letting people know, like, because I've seen I've seen people build like huge audiences where it's like 50,000, and they're like, okay, I'm not going to sell until I hit this right number. And then they promote something, and then they like people get angry. They're like, oh, I thought you were just a value account or something of that case. And it's like, I think at the beginning, you need to make it known, like, here, I'm not only here to provide value, I'm also here to make money by providing more value, of course, but like promoting is a good thing. And it's much better to get into the habit of promoting early, because there is some initial maybe fear, or just like resistance behind like writing a good promotion and posting it and just like sitting and accepting that it's not going to get much engagement. It really teaches you a lot about yourself. And the next module is all about, it's literally called Making a Living Without Followers. It's all about like ways to structure cold DMs, sales calls in an authentic and conversational way, and a lot to do with that. But one thing that I do really like, the strategies that I really like, is one, outlining something, whether it be a product, cohort, consulting offer. And then, as I mentioned just now, where you kind of outline the key points of what would be, let's say, a curriculum or just like a roadmap that you're walking people through. And then you take each of those and you start writing newsletters on them, right? So not only you're knocking out like three birds with one stone, where you're writing a very high value newsletter or thread or something, but you're also like setting the foundation for your actual course or curriculum or structure in general, and you're getting the ideas flowing, because when you write all of that out, then it's like you're kind of opening your mind to like receive new knowledge, where it's like, oh, that's perfect, that would have been perfect in the article, but now I can put it in the curriculum and it's going to be that much better. So I think it's better to start early, because there are always those strategies where like you can come back and relaunch or just have some form of promotion to kind of let everyone know once you get that following, where it's like, hey, I sell this, now you know, and now the promotions are going to make more sense. So that, yeah, those are my thoughts.
Thanks.
Got you. All right. I'm speaking too fast. I need to breathe. All right. From Josh, should we do a free calls at first? Few free calls at first. Yes, you can. Now, you'll see. I guarantee a lot of you will come across one of these tweets sometime on Twitter if you're following people in the online business space, where it's like you're gonna see multiple different perspectives on it, where it's like you absolutely have to do free work at first to get testimonials, or then there's those where it's like, no, you go straight to paid, value your time, value your work, and it's really up to you. At the end of the day, I see it where it's like free work, it's incredibly powerful for building connections, especially in the creator space. So if you're helping creators, or if you're helping people that are your followers, then yes, like building that connection is extremely valuable without any money involved, and helping them and getting a testimonial will help you in the future. Now, if you are targeting people that either plan to grow an audience or are growing an audience or have some other form of social proof, those testimonials from those people specifically grow in value, right? So one example is Dakota. When he was first starting ghostwriting, it's funny because we live together now, but he reached out to me and was like, hey, can I write like three tweets for you, and just like you post them and you see how they do. And I'm like, sure. And so I posted them and they did extremely well. Like they almost went viral. And he's like, okay, like, do you care if like I use it for a testimonial, or like we get on a short call and I record it? And so we did that, and he kind of used it as a VSL on his landing page. And he talks about this all the time, where since I was still kind of big at that time, where it's like 40, 50,000 followers. So I had some social proof, but now like over time, when people go and see that testimonial and they're like, oh, this guy has 140,000 followers, like they know what they're doing. Like, I'm just going to hire this guy right away. I don't even have to think twice because he's worked with this guy. So, and it's the same thing with like me and Joey, where I helped Joey at the very beginning when we were probably around like 4,000 or 5,000 followers each. And then like now his testimonial to me is worth, it's kind of weird assigning worth to like a testimonial, but the testimonial has technically grown in value itself. Like that testimonial is going to be much more impactful than some like a testimonial where people don't really know who they are. If they already have a relationship with the person that they're reading the testimonial, then yeah, they grow in value. So it's very good. I would use your discretion to finally answer the question, is use your discretion on who you're going to charge for and who you're going to do free work for. Where if you see an opportunity where it's like, I absolutely need this and this testimonial will be great, and I just want to have a genuine connection with this person, help them for free. Like, it's going to pay off 10 times over if you do that. But if it's If it's something where you don't see too much opportunity or they're just genuinely interested in working with you, then yeah, just slap a price tag on it and see how it goes. So, from Oscar, I have a question regarding this sentence. Consulting is the same as freelancing, done with you versus done for you. What do you mean by it? So, think of what I did when I came on Twitter. I did web design and like service, like simple service funnels before then, simple service funnel in this case was a funnel for a service business. So like pest control, construction, um, sometimes retailers. And what it was just like a landing page with an opt-in or lead magnet that would put them into an email sequence to schedule a call, because that's what like service businesses do, where you schedule a call and then they set up an appointment, they pay, and then you go to the house. And so I'd have an email sequence where it did that and like gave value, encouraged them to schedule a call, and then like continued following up with them. It was like a bit more complex than that. But when I came on Twitter, I was like, oh, I can assign, like I can do the same thing for creators. But then I started doing that where I did a few web design and funnel projects. But then I was like, if these people are anything like me, like I like learning and doing it myself. And so what I pretty much did is I just wrote out like, okay, here's what I'm doing. I just taught people how to do it themselves. Where like a creator, which is technically a service business, if they have some form of high ticket offer, then I would just have 4 to 8 calls with them where it's like, okay, here's exactly what you need to do. You need to have a landing page. And like, let's say one call is dedicated to a landing page or learning that. And then it's like, okay, we need to do email sequences. And then we need to have oh, okay, what do you need to know in between that? Well, you need to understand sales. You need to understand like marketing and offer creation, and pretty much what's been iterated into this course or this master's curriculum over time. So the way I think of freelance or done for you and done with you is, one, done for you is like, I'm going to create this website for you. And then done with you is, I'm going to teach you how to create this website yourself. And then the product, do it yourself, is pretty much like, here's what I would have taught you over phone calls in a consulting or coaching offer, but now it's a course. Like you can buy it here if you don't want to work one-on-one with me. So does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess just when you started saying that, it kind of made sense. Yeah, freelance is, you pay me to do X, I do it, that's it. And then consulting is, you pay me to show you how to do X, and you pay me for that, and we do it together.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then that is kind of the general structure for those is like one call a week for like 4 to 8 weeks. So it'd be dependent on like, of course it depends on like what you plan to do. But you could start by just like outlining what you would want to include in it and what it would take to actually teach that. And then kind of guess from the start, okay, I think this would take 4 calls. And then you have them, maybe you do it for free or lower price or whatever it may be. And then from there, it's like, okay, yeah, it would have taken more than 4 calls, or maybe it only takes 2 calls and you need to add more stuff or whatever it is. And you iterate from there. So if it takes 6 calls, let's say, then you do that next time. But you could also be like, okay, we have more to cover with the current client, and be like, let's do 2 more calls to get through all of this and make sure you're on the right path. And then I'm sure that would guarantee a like raving testimonial at that point. Cool.
Okay, awesome. Thanks a lot, Ben.
No problem. All right. So from Ollie, testimonials better to be from Twitter specific accounts, right? Yeah. If you're growing on Twitter, yes. But at the same time, you're doing health, right? I would assume.
Yeah, doing health.
Nice. Okay. So yeah, in that case, it works. But like any testimonial is good. So it doesn't necessarily have to be from Twitter, but if you're aiming for like the value of the testimonial to like kind of highlight, so say like you landed Joey as a client or someone, right? And you want to make that like a featured testimonial, then yeah, make it from Twitter so that like the crossover between followers, like more people notice and actually know who Joey is. And you'll be surprised like who that actually is, and like how like small but wide specific communities are. It's really weird how many sub communities are in, like, let's just say the self-improvement space of Twitter in general, or even broader than that, and like how much crossover there is there. It's really interesting. So yes.
Okay, nice. Thank you.
Yep. And then back to the cold DM question: how to approach it respectfully, transparently, genuinely, for free, and future paid. So module just dropped today, so go through the second section of that. It's called conversational DMs. That should answer it pretty well. I've had like somewhat of like some kind of that DM script for a while now, and refining it for this cohort specifically, and in regards to like knowing that we're all building an audience, it should be very authentic and transparent and respectful, as you mentioned. So it should flow pretty well. Cool. All right, so no more questions in the chat. Do we have any? Okay, we go. Not sure if this was mentioned during the first 10 minutes. I was not here, but you said you'd be building a product alongside masters. Yes. So that is kind of baked into the curriculum, at least in this first, the module that we're kind of talking about today, the marketing strategy, where it's kind of from like my projections, it's going to take a bit longer to actually get it launched after like masters is over, but I'm going to be keeping you guys updated on that the entire time, and like showing you exactly I'm doing it as we go through each of these sections. Where this first marketing strategy, I kind of outlined what I would like to see in it, and those were what parts of the videos we're covering was the actual product itself. But then in the third module, when we go over actually creating the product and figuring out how to structure the curriculum and coming up with a launch strategy and how to structure a landing page and write good copy, then like that's going to be focused around the product that I'm creating, relating to writing as a skill.
Okay. I was just asking because maybe I misunderstood or something, but I thought it would be very valuable, and I like that a lot. I thought we were gonna have like a sort of like an over the shoulder look at, like, this is what I'm thinking, this is how I come up with this is what I'm playing. I mean, maybe not the technical side, like, oh, here I'm going into card and I'm doing this in card to landing page, like not that, but more of the strategy and the technical side of, like, so we're going to do an offer for X, and this is what I'm going to do. Even if it doesn't, I don't know, make you tens of thousands of dollars, but at least knowing how that thing works in your head, the strategy, the tactics, and how you come up with those steps, and just looking at it over the shoulder, I thought that would have been great. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that'll definitely come into play. It's just that as we go through like the marketing and the like sales, so the next module is on sales specifically, because that's like, even if you don't plan on selling some form of high ticket offer like consulting, freelancing service, whatever it may be, it is extremely, and I mean like extremely helpful to just understand and be able to see the sales process in action in everything you do. Because it's not only sales calls, it's literally everything. And like some people say, like the sales guys, they always say everything is sales, and it really is. So being able to come at it from that perspective. But is there anything that I may have missed in terms of like ideating the actual product in this module? Because I went over, which one is it? In the ideating and outlining a project, where I'm in Notion, but on the actual thing, I had the video where I had like a drop down of my thought process on how I came up with the idea for the product. And like how that came to fruition. So in terms of me having the idea for the product and then fleshing out the marketing strategy, that should be in there in terms of like having it over the shoulder. But then when it comes to actually creating and like the thought process behind actually building it out and like getting it in front of people and the content that stems from that, that'll come in the third module.
Okay. Will we also be seeing like the launch? Because I know there's like I know that like the launch is a process all of in itself, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I mentioned that part will probably take longer than the actual curriculum itself. But I will 100% be like sending out emails, posting announcements in the Discord of like when those videos are uploaded. And then I'll probably have an overall video and like section inside Masters where it goes over like step by step. Here's exactly what I did to like come up with the idea, start fleshing out the marketing, you know, all the steps in one, just so it's cohesive once it's ready in a sense.
Okay. And from I guess from past conversations with you, I'm guessing that the let's say the path is to start with, as you said, with the calls or the coaching offer, and then from there get enough repetitions and enough experience to then distill it into a product that would be lower value, but that you can just distribute without you actually taking those calls, right? And you would still keep the coaching offer, but then you would have like this product, either video or ebook or whatever that you keep selling. Okay.
Yeah, 100%. And like I know we, like everyone, including me, we all want like the like, okay, we do like this step 1, step 2, step 3, like do it all in sequential order, and it makes sense that way. But this may not be the case with you or anyone here, but like some people just have absolutely no desire to do a freelance or consulting offer, right? And so while it's good, and that is, I would say, the most optimal way to do things is start with that offer, get like real world hands-on work with clients one-on-one done with that, and like understand them deeply. You can start with a product. Like you really can start with a product. You can start with a cohort. You can start with whatever you want, and then you can make iterations on those, and they just get better over time with like the feedback that you're getting from the people that went through it. So that's also an option.
Actually,
so
I thought that was like the way, you know, like I thought that was the way that you start with the product and they go up to the high ticket. Mm-hmm. But the way you and I talked about it and what way I'm seeing is it actually makes more sense in my head to start with the coaching offer and then take all of that experience and then turn it into a product rather than the other way around. Because if you have a product, you don't have that much feedback, and you don't have that much one-on-one time with the people that will actually help you build that product out. So I actually think this way it's better. I just hadn't thought of it that way.
Yeah, 100%. And it's I don't want to say easier. It's I'll say easier, but take that with a grain of salt. It's easier to sell a high ticket service from the start, because one, think of it this way, with freelancing, like if you're freelancing and you aren't building an audience, then what you're doing is you're either sending cold emails, you're doing some kind of outbound marketing. And if that marketing is good, then your income is really reflected by either the amount of work you do or the amount of referrals you get. So at the same time, like in one, it's the amount of work you do and getting your name out there, right? So with a high ticket offer, you can, let's say you DM 30 people in a month, and let's say one of them buys your high ticket offer, which is, let's say, $1,000. Those are like lower numbers, but if you were to do that with a product, since you can't really monetize or make a full-time income with your audience yet, and you're trying to DM people trying to sell a product, and you close maybe like 5 of those 30 people on a $100 product, then you made 500 instead of 1,000. But then if you just bump the numbers up and make your service better, let's say it's a $3,000 to $5,000 service at one point, and it has extremely good marketing, and it's like you're in direct control of how well it sells because of the marketing and testimonials and everything else that you get through that manual work, then you can make a full-time income as a quote unquote freelancer would just by DMing people and like getting your name out there and getting referrals, not necessarily from your audience, but then as you're building the audience, then it makes sense to kind of work top down, turn it into a product, and start to balance them all out where you're taking on less clients. You're also not DMing as many people, or really anyone for that matter, to sell that high ticket service, but at the same time, you're making those product sales, right? So then it's like 2 in 1, and you're not doing a lot of the manual labor aside from just creating content. So that's kind of the, it's like, I don't know. There's like the bigger your audience and the better your promotions, the less time you have to spend actually like trying to sell one-on-one with someone. And then as that happens, your time investment in terms of like actually delivering on a service goes down because it's more productized.
Just a follow-up question on that. One thing that's consistently holding me back, and I know this, I'm also working with a therapist on this, but just not feeling confident to sell a high ticket offer. Like I can go get a job offer that pays, a high amount, and then I feel that, yeah, I can do this. But when it comes to selling it myself, I feel like, how do I justify this? Like, how do you come over that kind of mental blocker?
What's the main aspect of the offer that you don't feel too confident in? Or is it the offer as a whole?
Yeah, the offer as a whole, I feel like, okay, I've never done this before. How can I help someone, just like get them on a call and help them with their system? I think it's just like lack of that experience, maybe. So it's like a chicken and egg problem. So I feel that, okay, if I sell a $200 offer, I feel more confident doing the same thing. But if I make it like 5,000, I'm like, oh, I don't think I can. I don't feel justified asking for that kind of amount. So
Yeah.
I know I'm holding myself back there.
Yeah. So the first thing is I would take smaller increments in terms of like jumps, right? Where if you like it's really like steps, and kind of branching out to a point where you're like, I'm not too confident in offering this number, but I'm going to say it just to say it and see what happens, and kind of just get used to saying that number. So it's like a lot of people will start for free and get the testimonials and just feel more confident in like teaching that subject, and kind of seeing the eyes of other people light up where it's like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And that makes you feel more confident in what you're actually teaching. And then from there, it's like, okay, let's go $500. And then you get that, you see people's feedback, and then it's like, okay, maybe like a month later, $1,000. And then as you start to add more to the offer and you understand the offer creation where you have those guarantees in place, or the risk reversal, you have a solid promise, people are expressing more interest, and then it's like, okay, I don't have, like, I'm going to do, let's say 2,000, just throw it out there, and then 2,500. And then at some point, I feel like there will be something that clicks, or as you're building your audience, you just won't want to take on that much more work. And so at that point, it's like, okay, yeah, like $5,000 if like we're doing this. And then one time, I guarantee one time, someone will give you an instant yes. And then you'll be like, oh, is that easy? And then that'll be cleared for the rest of eternity. So in short, Joey, you may have more on top of this since you're the purple brain guy, but yeah, I'll let you take over. Do you have anything in terms of like confidence when selling and increasing prices?
Yeah, totally. So I was really the same way when I got started with my coaching. I started working with a lot of people who were a lot more successful than I was, at least in online business. Like Rogue Wealth was one of my first clients, for those who know him. And I've worked with a lot of the big people in the money Twitter community, people who are making way more money than I was, people who are already fairly productive, obviously, people who had 10 times my following, but they still had problems I knew that I could solve. And that's ultimately what it comes down to, is if these people have some sort of need. If you're a coach, then you're solving a problem. If you're a copywriter, web designer, agency person, then you're fulfilling a need. As long as you can fulfill that need or solve that problem, that's what matters. And the cost of something is relative to the value that you're providing somebody. So as you get to be solving bigger problems and or you're targeting bigger people, then the cost naturally goes up because the value of what you're doing is increasing. So I would focus on the problems that you want to solve for whoever you want to help. Focus on that and say, okay, do I feel pretty confident that I can solve this problem? Because if so, then I have a responsibility to put that out there and start reaching out to people and helping them with the problem or the need. And then really charging somebody for something like that is just an exchange of value. You're both getting something. So an issue that a lot of people have when they get into online business is this fear, not really fear, but they think that sales is icky. Like they don't want to be like a used car salesman, right? But the thing is, sales isn't bad as long as you're actually providing something that's worth what people are paying you. So I would think about, again, the problem that you want to solve or the need that you want to help with. Think about your skills. And if you feel like those skills are pretty much ready to go, then you're good to go. You can start having conversations, getting people on calls, and start helping them. Then as you build up those results, you can start targeting bigger people and start charging more.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's very helpful. Thanks.
Yeah, I'll add something onto that as well, where some of it may just be getting exposed and kind of normalized to bigger numbers, right? Where where Dakota at this point, like he's trying to get out of ghostwriting, like he's trying to take less clients on, and so he every time he gets on a call now, it's like what we're doing when we get on a call is we're kind of forming our own perception or understanding of the other person, and we're assuming and we're kind of assuming what they can afford based on our experience. And like when Dakota gets on a call with some guy who he doesn't know much about, he's like they work at a finance company and whatever, and even like he did, I won't name names, but it was like one fitness account on Twitter where like they weren't making that much money. Like I would assume, personally, I would assume that they weren't making that much money, and just because he didn't want to like take on more clients, he would get on a call with them and you're just like, yeah man, I'll get you like this many followers for $25,000. And a lot of the time they were just like, yes, I'll do it. And it's really interesting because like once you are getting on calls with the right people, like even if you don't think they can afford a certain amount and you're kind of like having those false expectations, then it's that kind of screws with the sale. But if you're like, I don't really need anyone, and this is hard to fake, you can't really fake it. But it's hard to, I mean, at some point when you just say like a big number and that's like nothing to the other person, like this is very true in like B2B sales, like business to business, where like we personally haven't been exposed to like what a $10 million or $1 billion company's marketing budget is, and that they're like accepting $100,000 deals on a regular basis. Then it's like to us $5,000, it's like, okay, yeah, we're pushing the boundaries there. But to other people it's like, okay, yeah, that's business lunch, like yeah, let's get it over with. And
I think that's it. I think it's your sort of your orbit, your circle. You feel that that's a big number, but relative to someone else, it's nothing. And then yeah, so you almost have this fear of going there, but you have to go there to get used to it.
Exactly.
I think that's it.
Yeah, that's the hardest thing, is literally just like one time. Well, not one time, because the first time, like if you're like 5,000 and then they kind of reaffirm your beliefs, where it's like, oh, that's like I gotta talk to a wife, like that doesn't, or it's just like a blatant I can't afford that, then it kind of like hits you and you're like, oh, okay, it's too high, when in reality it's it's just circumstance like that would happen, because then luck could have it. Maybe the first time you say $5,000 and it's like, oh yeah, like, yeah, let's do it. And then that is kind of solidified in your head. So it's really a balance of like, not getting too attached to certain things, and understanding that, just being aware, like, okay, this isn't how everyone is going to react or respond to the actual price. We move on. We've got weeks, months, years ahead of us where that could all turn around.
So something I'll add to that can help out a lot. I think I've talked about this before on one of our calls, but after you get a version of your offer ready to sell and you're ready to start getting on prospect calls, you should be doing a little bit of practice or rehearsal talking through your offer. That way, when you're on the call, you can deliver it confidently and you're not like reading it from notes off on the side and just being unsure, because people will sense that unconsciously. So you should be practicing. But one thing that can help when you're practicing is when you practice saying the price, say a number that's 10 times higher than what your price actually is. And what that does is it normalizes your actual price, because then when you go back to either practicing saying what your actual price is, or you deliver that on a call, you're going to deliver that way more confidently, because you're like, oh, it's like you could practice with like, I don't know, $10,000, but then your actual price is $1,000. And because the comparison, I forget the principle, but because that's going to seem like so much less than what you had been rehearsing, you're going to deliver it a lot more confidently. And that'll also help you with the idea of charging that much.
That's a great tip. Really love that one.
Nice. Hell yeah. All right. So to answer Oscar, is the separate command center in Notion for the master's curriculum only the marketing strategy Notion template, or is there more to master's curriculum as it related to Notion templates or command centers go? Yeah. So for this one, the Notion templates that we get, or that are in the master's curriculum, are added to the current like main command center, and because it's all like cohesive in a sense. So it's not like an entirely separate command center or like an entirely separate module. It's more so we're adding these specific pages throughout like the product build, and it'll make more sense because there was only one in this module. So yes, there are more, but they'll be added to the current command center, so everything's in one place. And then, is there ever a point at which you would reduce your price when going from free to 500, then to 1500, and so on? Is it good, bad? So there could be a time, but since we're building an audience, and we're kind of like, I would say one of the main goals of building an audience is to reduce the time spent on client work in general. So that would be up to personal discretion. Like if someone, like if you're just getting feedback after feedback where it's like, yeah, the price was too high for what was delivered, which I've never heard of that happening, because I don't know, I've just never heard of it. So I would use your own discretion where it's like you're getting feedback and it's like, okay, yeah, I should lower the price. But aside from that, at some point when your price is high, it's not only high because of the value being delivered, it's because you value your time. Where like Justin Welsh, for example, like he's had to increase his, or he's not a very good example of this. Who would be one? Let's say like Joshua Lysek, for example. Like he sets a set day. I believe his day is like Tuesday of the week where he takes client calls because he values his time. Like he has other things to do that demand his attention, and he charges a lot of money and is booked out like weeks in advance because he won't, like he set his schedule and he sticks to that. And if there's more demand, then the price goes higher. Supply and demand at that point, but it's the same offer. So at some point, there's like some inflection point where people start paying for you because of your authority and their relationship with you and wanting to work with you specifically over like the value. They pretty much want to hear what you're saying, what's in your course coming from you. Like if you weren't involved at that point, then the price would kind of like not many people would buy it because it's a personal brand, right? So decent balance to be had there. And then I answered that, Samantha. So there's the non-needy networking, which is like a DM framework for reaching out to people and connecting with people without sales in mind. And then in this one, there's the conversational DMs, which is more sales oriented and like transitioning from like here's like, hey, I'm reaching out to you, I want to connect, and then kind of transitioning and understanding their goals, where they want to be, making them aware of problems. And it's like, I can help with that. And getting on a call or going through the next step of the sales process. And then true. All right, so from Josh, I'm thinking about doing performance coaching, something around productivity. What are some questions I would ask the client? What do you mean by that? Some questions you would ask the client in terms of what? And then, Samantha, what was the question that you had earlier?
It's that big long one, but after rereading it, it seems like it's more of a information than a question.
Oh.
So it happens when we multitask. So I basically have three directions. I just kind of want to hear what you say, because I think doing something quicker is more important. But as you know, I have a paid polymath community that I'm building. I just soft launched it, and then in September I'm going to relaunch it larger because we're revamping some things now. After soft launch, you learn a lot of things. So I've got that product that I need to build, which is building up memberships, just like you do with Modern Mastery, right? So that's one. The other is I've been working on an energy and wellness challenge on and off. I use like an arborist analogy, using a fruit tree and how to anyway, but I'm not like a wellness expert, if you will. Only I was in a wheelchair and a serious illness on and off, and I beat that freaking thing, even though the doctors thought I'd never get better. And I know a lot of things about energy and wellness, but it has more to do with mindset and interaction. It's not like what Joey does, although I wish I knew more about how he literally is really good at performance. I might hire you one of these days. I just don't have time right now. But anyway, so that's one course. So now that 5 day it could be a 5 day or 5 week challenge. It could turn into a book and a passive income course. I already know it. I've showed it to a few people. So I'm trying to decide, should I push myself, create that product, do it over 5 weeks, do what I did when I ran that TEDx event. We literally just put the outline out, sold the outline, and then each week we built the curriculum. We had an idea-ish about what each week was going to be, but we didn't have the curriculum all done. And every week we were literally working our asses off to stay 1 week ahead of everyone.
Yeah.
and building the curriculum as we go. And then I know that could turn into a book. But that's going to be quite a bit of work on my part. And number 3 is I literally could just start up micro consulting again, where I just get on a call and get paid for 2 or 3 sessions, and I could do that with very little work, because it becomes muscle memory. So I'm just trying to figure out, do I use this as a way to do this long-term project? Knowing what you know now, your younger self, would you use this kind of course to build your long project that could have huge dividends, or go for just some quick money to pay for expenses that cost to build a community and build the community up?
Yeah. This kind of biased because I'm writing the book right now. Well, kind of on and off. It's after I have a few more things until I want to get back into it. But it's the way I see a book is it's more so, as you said, long-term authority, as opposed to quick cash, where there's pros and cons to each of those. But to me, since you already have a way to monetize, and you can probably, if you need money, you know what to do. It's you just go make it. And then so in my eyes, from my perspective, I think that the book would be a good way to go. But then again, that's taking into account like how much time you would have to spend on it and the things that come along with that. So I think they're both good options. And maybe it's both and just a matter of like getting one done now and then when time frees up or when, yeah, I don't know. That may be a,
I might be able to work them together. So just listening to the two of you go back and forth, I might be able to work in a 5 week coaching session, like micro consulting, but build in the book, like the
mm,
challenge and see it and see if I can get it to work that way. Then I'm building the book at the same time. So anyway, thanks for, I just needed to bounce that off of someone who gets it. So thank you.
yeah,
And then also the community part. So that's the other option, using this course to literally just promote the community, which is a paid community.
yeah, that's a good option too. But the books also lead into it. You know what I mean? Where like that may even be more effective. Where I heard Joshua Lysek say one time, like sometimes people just buy your book so that they can get your contact information to pay you for coaching to tell you what was in the book. And so like the book is like, to me it seems like it's more so, it's not necessarily like I'm giving you a bunch of like implementable information. It's more so I know my shit. This is like an about me, or not an about me, about what I can do for you. Here's how you like pay for my services to actually help you implement it. So the course also works though as well because those naturally lead into each other and it's less so like there's more options to actually get people into that. Where in a book, it depends if they buy from you or a different publisher, but if it's from like somewhere else, then they like, you have to make it very clear, like go here for resources and then get their email and then promote the course. But with the course, it's like you bought the course, I have your email, here's how you get into the community. It's much lower friction in a sense. So
Okay, it gave me lots to think about when I could even give away day one for free in exchange for the email.
yeah.
Because just the first day is enough to get people. It's basically like drink a ton of water and take B12 and just like some really basic things that we all should know. But like, oh, here's a free template on
Right.
that. So, okay.
Nice. Cool. And then Josh. Josh, did you have any clarification for that? So you're thinking of doing performance coaching. Um,
Yeah, yeah, man. Sorry, I was washing dishes, man, when you
yeah,
asked
okay.
that question. But yeah, I think mainly my question would be like, what kind of general questions I would ask the client to like, get a better understanding of like what they're dealing with and how I can help them. I think that would be for Joey, honestly, since he's kind of doing the same thing, or he is doing the same thing.
Yeah. So you're talking about a client or a prospect?
Prospect, yeah.
Okay. So prospect, you really just want to ask them, hey, what are you dealing with? I mean, that's a very open-ended question. That could be one question, like, what are you dealing with? You could ask them where they're at now, what they're working on. Another question would be,
Right.
what are your goals? Like, what do you want to achieve in your business or in life? And then what are your challenges? Like, what's standing in the way? Because basically, they're at A, they want to go to B, but they can't cross over to B for some reason. And you're like the bridge getting them from A to B. So you got to ask these questions to diagnose all three of those different things.
All right, yeah, that helps, man.
Cool. And then, yeah, something else that'll help with that is the conversational DMs that dropped today in the actual membership. Because once you get to the point like of the interaction where you ask them what, like you ask them pretty much like what they're struggling with, but in a like open, like interested way, and then from there, so it's pretty much as Joey said, like what's going on, uh like what are you struggling with, what's a sticking point, and they'll start to give like hints, right? They'll give the first thing that's on their mind where it's like, oh, I'm tired, or my mind has been a bit foggy, right? And it's like,
All right.
okay, and then you have to clarify that a bit where you're you're not only starting to position yourself as the expert or the one to trust in this situation, but you're actually getting like, you're making them think about what their problem actually is by, in the performance aspect of things, you're asking them about their day. So like, what have you been eating on a daily basis, or how have you been sleeping? Have you been getting in the gym, or something? Uh, are you taking supplements? And you're kind of diagnosing like a doctor would before they prescribe, let's say, your service, or just like actionable advice, since they aren't a fit for your service in that case. Um, so that's the main thing, is like getting a broad answer out of them and then clarifying to the point of seeing if you can actually help. But at the same time, there's multiple things that goes on there. There's like, you're being perceived as the
Yeah,
expert
right.
because you know how to navigate it, and you're making them more aware of what their problem actually is and whether or not they have the tools to solve it. And then in that case, when both of those line up, then it's like, okay, yeah, let's work together.
Okay.
Your mic may have your mic may have went to like the phone or something.
Hey, can you hear me now?
Yep.
All right, straight. Yeah, man. So I can use like all those questions and the advice I get from those calls for like a future product, huh? Once I start
Yeah.
dialing it in, because it's all like I don't really have like a set structure on how I can help these people. I kind of just, I've gotten on some calls and I've DM'd a lot of people that just like were like seeking my help, and I kind of just went off like the dome from my own experience and from like what I've read. So yeah, I think once I start getting it more structured, and I'll have like a something I can reuse over and over again for a product too.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And as I mentioned earlier, I wouldn't hesitate to either like find someone that you would want to emulate. So like one of your mentors that we previously wrote down, or just someone you aspire to be like, in the performance space. You could buy one of their courses. Like if they have a low ticket course, like $47 course, I would buy that just to see what's inside. Like as I mentioned, not to like take it, but to understand like how they're teaching it, and the structure of like, okay, mindset comes first, and then like health comes next, and then productivity comes after that, and here's what they're teaching. And it's the same with a book. So in the case of performance, I would read both Flow by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, and then The Art of Impossible by Stephen Kotler, and kind of like make connections. Like, what are these two both saying that pretty much indicate like, here's how you optimize your performance step by step. And then you can kind of map that out in your own way, and then start to fill it in with your like, you mix in your personal experience, you mix in maybe some research, you mix in like the tried and true methods. Because like, one thing you'll really notice, like once you get immersed in one specific space, is that the how is all the same. Like how someone gets from point A to point B is all the same. Like in digital economics, the bachelor's curriculum, it's like, I don't want to say it's the same, because it's not. But if you were to buy a Twitter course, it's like there's different qualities of how, in a sense. So if you were to buy like a $10 Twitter course where it's like optimize your profile and learn how to write tweets and write some threads, but then in digital economics, it's like it's kind of the same thing as that. It's the same like step by step how, but there's more depth. There's more like, here are some of the nuances. Here's all of this stuff. So um, that's the main thing, is like there is a step by step how to get from point A to point B. It's just a matter of you taking that, figuring out what it is, and then refining it over time.
Okay. Yeah, that helps a lot, man.
Cool.
Yeah, and I read Flow on short form. This is really good. I need to buy the actual
Yeah.
book.
The actual book is like extremely good. I listened to the audiobook, and I was just like, yep, this is making a lot of sense, but it was like abridged because the full one wasn't on Audible from what I found. But I am actually reading it right now in the mornings, but the actual book is like killer, man. Like it's so good for more than just performance. It gives you so many tweet ideas.
Yeah, man.
It's really good.
Yeah, I was like highlighting it all on short
Yep.
form.
I know. I can't go a page without highlighting something.
All right, well, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Cool. All right. So Sahil's out. Got that. Oh, Samantha, can you, or I can do it, but pop that day slice in the Discord, because that sounds
Yeah, I'll do that. I
interesting.
just saw a friend of mine just posted it new, and it you can put your banner and then a list of who you are and what you do on the one side, and the other side is all the different services. Sort of like
Mm,
your 45 minute, your 60 minute, or I mean your 60 minute and the pricing. So it's just one landing page. So it's basically your personal stuff or you selling with testimonials on one side and then the sell on the other. So there's just one landing page. I saw it and I was like, freak, that looks sleek. And it's like $15 a month, and then you could just, you're up like that, right? So I mean, Calendly is pretty cool, but you can't, it's not combined with a landing page. You still have to craft a landing page. So anyway, I just saw it and I literally saw it right now, and I was like, sweet, this would be really good for anyone wanting to do like some consulting services.
nice. I
Or
dig.
micro consulting was what I call them, micro consulting.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
a good
like
way
long term consulting. As soon as someone wants me to do something long term, I'm like, see you later. Go hire someone else.
Yeah.
From looking at it quickly, it kind of seems like Book Like a Boss. Have you seen that one?
Oh no, I haven't seen that one. I'll look it up.
Little booklikeaboss.com, and they have, I think, four different plans. One's for
Okay.
products, one's for services, one's for everything. And they also have scheduling. You can sell a lot of stuff there. They have landing pages that you can build out fairly easily as well.
All right. Sweet.
Damn.
A couple of different options.
Yeah, Book Like a Boss is a good option too.
Yeah, it looks, when I go to the website, it's definitely freaking busy. Like I look at it and I'm like, oh my gosh, what the heck's this all about? And then you go to their like pricing and they've got 50 different things going on. So it is a little bit more, it seems like there's more to it, but less simplified. Both are good.
Nice. Cool. Sweet. So before we head out, is there any last questions that anyone has?
Dan, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, do you have room for one more question, one last question?
Yeah.
Okay. I know we're running out of time, but so I took the personality test again. I did it a long time ago,
Mhm.
and I couldn't remember what it was. So I found, and it's still the same, which is surprising. So I was
It's crazy.
curious. Yeah, it is pretty cool. I was curious. So I know you talked about, you know, talking to that customer avatar that naturally will gravitate towards you.
Mhm.
I didn't necessarily see how that could be built out. Like, it was so much information when I downloaded the PDFs. I'm like, holy shit, it's so detailed and it's so, like, you can probably spend a day or two just reading about different personalities and how who you would work best with. So can you give me some guidance on that? Because I'm like, wow, I'm feeling overwhelmed by
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, so I'd hold it like loosely, right? I wouldn't put too much importance on it because it's more so um
Mhm.
like self-understanding. That was more so for like content, like who you're talking to with content. And I think
Right,
that becomes easier when it's like you're only thinking of it in terms of one tweet. Because in one tweet, it's like you're just trying to get one point across based on just something you're interested in, right? When it comes to actually creating a product, that is more so around, it becomes a lot easier when we actually like put it on a landing page. It becomes much more structured.
hmm
um, so in this case, are you talking in terms of like how are we taking that and implementing it for content, or like something you're selling in the future? Because none of
it
it's really
yeah.
directly like up, not,
hmm
let's say directly applicable. Like it isn't directly applicable. Like we aren't taking what's there and putting it somewhere else. It's more
Right.
so um, for self understanding and like it sounds weird, but like staying true to yourself when you are creating content or you are creating a product, right? So I wouldn't
Hmm.
put too much importance on it. I would
Hmm.
more so like I think my main point with like that was that you're kind of like giving advice to yourself, or you're selling a product that like you would buy as your previous self, right? So it's more so like understanding yourself and selling to your past self, while at the same time like taking into account that you will have, or you do and will have, an audience, and
Hmm.
you still need to listen to them and collect feedback. But for
Right.
now, it's more so you're understanding yourself, your own problems, because other people do have those same problems and will resonate with those problems or benefits or whatever it may
Yeah.
be.
Yeah. Because I was looking at, my potential, who I work best with in the past, like past clients. I've been looking at just patterns, and it was like, introverts, half introverts, half extroverts. And it just kind of clicked that why I work with them so well, and the clients that I didn't end up working so well, right?
Mhm.
And ask for refund and things like that. So I was like, wow, it just, took me back a little bit. So anyway, so I'm still trying to figure that out. But thank you. Yeah, because I think I could see someone driving themselves crazy with that, a lot of information and data. So,
Yeah,
all right. Thank you.
no problem. All right. And Samantha, I read that feedback. I agree because I've written over mine multiple times. I'm pretty sure I even did it in one video. So yeah, I'll definitely get that added.
Yeah, like the last one where we took that, marketing strategy or whatever, and I was like, oh my gosh, good thing I didn't cover over the first one. And then I was like, it really
Yeah,
should say duplicate or template, because that way you always got one template,
yeah.
and then you're copying and pasting it each time. So that's what I'm doing moving forward. I just changed the title, but it would be good if all of the titles literally said duplicate this, or
Mm.
something that says template, so that people don't copy it over.
Yeah, that's solid. I'll definitely do that. Thank you. And cool. So I see you guys scheduling stuff, uh, but the call is coming to an end. So if we want to move that to Discord, you're free to post it in Discord as well. Like if you want to get more people in on it. Um, but yeah, I appreciate you guys all showing up. That was a great discussion. I'm going to